Welcome to Real Women's Stories. As women, we go through our lives and we go through our decades, and as we near our sort of 40s, we start that anticipation of getting into our midlife and what does that mean to us? And, you know, people look at it as having a crisis. But today's episode is all about having a midlife awakening.
So interesting you should mention this imposter syndrome, because I've heard it quite a bit, and it's a very triggering, deep feeling, and I didn't quite realise how much, and it can hinder you, and I think that's an incredible shame.
Things get thrown at us and we then become different people. We then stop being able to pursue our potential dreams that we had when we were younger. And then what happens when we turn 50 and we get into our midlife? Where does that leave us? Do we go into crisis mode or do we have an awakening?
Since December, things have snowballed, and then I got the call up to the O2.
I mean, that's just epic.
I cannot believe, I can't believe that I'm going to be singing and performing at the O2. I mean, it's a real pinch yourself moment. I'm going to be 52 in June, and this is what I'm doing.
This is Real Women's Stories. I am interviewing the incredible Lynsey Moore. Now, Lynsey Moore is massive on the garage club scene. She released a track back in the day called Love Bug, which has made a massive comeback. And she's releasing more music, working with incredible house music producers, DJs, artists within that garage sector. And it was something that I wanted to delve into with Lynsey and unpack her journey, you know, fulfilling her dreams of being a singer on stage, because that was one of my dreams. It was a passion. And I'm now just stepping into my podcasting space and being able to pursue my dreams. But Lynsey did it from a very, very, very early age. And I want to understand her journey, where she was at when she was younger, how that transitioned when I think garage music kind of, you know, dipped out a bit and no one was really listening to it. And now it's made a massive comeback. How has that influenced her life and what she's doing? Now she's in her 50s. So now you know who Lynsey Moore is. Let's get into the interview. Lynsey Moore, we go back a long, long way. Can you remember when we first met?
Probably when we were about 15.
Hanging around Edgware? Yeah, the good old Edgware days.
Hampstead and Golders Green.
That was it. Northwest London girls we were.
We were.
And we got into clubbing.
We certainly did.
And we used to love dancing, clubbing. And at that time, I was at drama school and I had my big dreams and aspirations. And you got into music in quite a big way, didn't you?
I did. You were at drama school, I was at a convent school, so quite different. But yeah, I've always loved music. I wanted to do it from a very early age, and naturally, yes, I started clubbing and kind of like found my path through that way. Clubbing and clubs was like my university. It was like my school. And, I met loads of producers and DJs. I was a guest list girl at the Cross, which was great for me. I absolutely loved it because I was working at the time as well. I had a 9-to-5 job in the day, but my weekend used to start on a Wednesday. I'd be out partying from a Wednesday to Monday morning.
Yeah.
Quite naughty, but anyway, no regret. But yes, I just met so many people and started session singing, which was great. So yeah, it was a fantastic, fun, exciting time.
Was there a music element to you growing up? Where did that come from?
I remember when I was about 8 or 9 years old. I went round to my grandma's one Christmas, and my cousin at the time had Madonna, the Like a Virgin tour on video. And I'd never seen anything like this before. You know, it opened my eyes up and I thought, that's what I want to do. And that was from a very, very early age. So she was a huge influence from the very beginning. But I was brought up like my brother and sister, there's a 10-year gap, 10 and 7-year gap. So I was brought up on all the old soul funk records of the late 70s, early 80s. So I've always been incredibly into music, all the old sounds. And yeah, I knew, as I said, from a very early age, that's what I wanted to do, which is quite cool because so many kids today don't know what they want to do, but I was very fixated with it. And there was absolutely nothing else for me.
Sort of take us forward in time because obviously you had your music, you released a track very early on. Was that early on? Am I right? When did the whole kind of
what with Love Bug or prior to Love Bug?
Well, prior to Love Bug,
yeah, because basically, so I came out of school, went to college for a year, was working full time, session singing, and I actually did my first tune. I did my first tune with Max Bloom and a guy called Paul Emmanuel, who actually happened to go on to be Club Asylum, who did Shola Ama's Imagine.
Amazing.
So I did my first tune with them, a track called Your Love, which I wrote. And we recorded it at Battery Studios, which was the most incredible studios in Willesden, because Paul at the time, I believe, who was he working with? He did Nomad, obviously. I want to give you devotion.
Yeah.
He did that tune, engineered it. And yeah, he had access to the most incredible studios. So yeah, that was my first cut that I did. And that's when I got the real bug for it, I suppose. And then, as I said, I carried on session singing and moving forward to meeting Ramsey and Fen. Had the jam with them at the studio, and then a few weeks later they called me up and said, "Hey Lynn, do you want to do a track?" I was like, "Yeah, cool." So I went in and I recorded a track called Oh Boy. It had been signed to XL Recordings and they needed a vocalist on it. So I went in and I did the tune. And then the week after that they called me again, "Hey, do you want to come and do another tune?" I was like, "Yeah, cool." And I went in on the Thursday morning and I walked into the studio and they had the lyrics written on the back of a record sleeve. And I was like, okay. So there was Ramsey, Fen, MJ Cole sat there. I was like, okay, so this is cool. Well, what's it called? And he said, it's called Love Bug. I was like, oh, that's cool. I said, what, as in the car, Love Bug? He goes, no, as in Love British Underground Groups, which was the name of their label, Bug Records. So I went into the vocal booth, and I remember there was no light in the vocal booth. So I lit up the lyrics with my lighter so I could see them. And I literally did my vocal, took about half an hour, 40 minutes. That was it. Went in, did my job. Next day they phoned me, right, the track's been mixed down. Come and have a listen to it. So when I went to have a listen to it, I knew as soon as I heard it, this was something special. Because I'd obviously been session singing for a couple of years prior to that. And I was doing okay tracks. They were okay. You know, for me, it gave me experience. It taught me my hi-hat from my snare. It taught me the mechanics of the studio. But when I went in and heard this record, I thought, right, no, this is special. And they said to me, right, you need to learn it because you're singing it at Camden Palace tomorrow.
Oh, so that's what it counted. Right.
Yes,
okay.
Yes. The thing is, I knew, go back to Madonna, her first live performance in the UK was at Camden Palace.
Amazing.
Holiday.
Wow.
So that was like,
oh my God.
I'm singing where she sang, and it's the first time I'm doing something like this, and yeah.
Incredible.
So
Incredible. The irony. Well, or we can call it synchronicity. You know, that happens.
Yeah.
Amazing.
So this was September 98. So I went in and did that PA at Camden Palace, and then literally within 6 weeks, Love Bug was all over the radio.
How did that make you feel?
Oh, just it's the most incredible feeling in the world. It's like, you know, I couldn't believe that my voice was on the radio.
Yeah.
And after I've been working so hard, and yeah, there's nothing quite like it. So Love Bug was an amazing, fun, exciting, mad time. I mean, I was gigging literally from a Wednesday to a Sunday.
Amazing.
3 shows a night. But yeah, it was a magical time. It was great. I was doing that for a good year and a half. I did a follow-up tune called Kiss Me with Ramsey and Fen, which was okay. It was a great tune, but didn't have the same impact as Love Bug. And then I got signed for a solo deal elsewhere. I went to this independent label who wanted to put me in a different direction, and that was a mistake.
Right.
It was a big mistake. So I went from UK garage to trance.
Okay.
And my fan base was UK garage, and it was just so far removed.
Sure.
It did okay. You know, I did an album there. So I went from trance with the first track to like pop disco with the second track, and we were just trying a little bit of everything. And don't get me wrong, you know, I worked with some amazing people. You know, the trance record, I had Paul Oakenfold championing it, which was amazing. And it ended up on one of his compilations. The second tune, Dave Lee produced, who did Take That, Relight My Fire. He's a great friend of mine and a lovely guy. And I remember playing him the tune in demo format, a tune called Embrace Me. I met him in for a coffee. So I played him the tune. I said, "Oh, fancy doing this for me?" And he goes, "Yeah, of course. I love the record," and that was really cool. And I shot the video in Browns. It was like my Kylie moment. I wanted it to be very Kylie spinning around-esque. So so that was really cool. But unfortunately from there, it just none of the tunes didn't have the same impact as Love Bug. So it was disappointing. I was frustrated. And that's when I didn't start to like the industry.
Okay. And
had a dip.
Okay.
Because I came out of music and I had enough.
Mm-hmm.
You know, from the high to the low.
Yeah.
It's really not great. Really not great. Not getting any work. Nobody really interested. So yeah, that was tough. So turned my back on it to the point where I actually didn't even want to listen to the radio.
Really?
That's how bad it felt. I didn't want to watch MTV. I didn't want to listen to the radio. I didn't want to know anything about it. So I just became a makeup artist. So I did that. I started a fashion business with my mum and my sister. And yeah, I just kept myself busy. I kept myself busy earning a living, as I've always had to do. And that's what I did.
Right.
So yeah, it was hard though. Really hard.
Yeah.
You know, from being out gigging and doing what I love to something else, which, don't get me wrong, I did not love. Well, I liked what I had to do next, but it wasn't the same.
I'm sure that there are young women now who want to do the same thing, but you know, I suffer with imposter syndrome. I have that self-doubt, and that is one big thing for me, where I went to drama school and I didn't get to where you got to because I walked away from it, because I had the self-doubt before it crashed. I didn't even get there. I just didn't believe in myself. I even got a scholarship to drama school, but that still didn't give me some self-belief that I was good enough.
Mm-hmm.
And like, do you think that a lot of the generation now feel like that?
Yeah, I think a lot of the generation now feel like that. And I think a lot of the generation in our time then felt like that. And it's so interesting you should mention this imposter syndrome, because I've heard it quite a bit recently.
Yeah.
And it's a very triggering, deep feeling.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't quite realise how much. And it can hinder you.
Yeah.
Very much.
Yeah.
So, and I think that's an incredible shame. But you can't help how you feel, right? It's very, very difficult. You can tweak it a little bit, but fundamentally it's inside.
Yeah.
And sometimes it just doesn't go away.
Yeah. I think it's a case of, and with the coaching that I do, it's practice. Because I wouldn't be sitting here now doing this podcast had I not have worked on myself and gotten over that, because I honestly didn't have that self-belief. I kind of knew I had this big dream, aspirations. I was trying everything. Like you, I was hustling.
Yeah.
But the hustle came, but the belief didn't come with it. With you had the belief inside that you were like, I am not going to let anyone get in my way, obviously, and, you know, in a nice way.
Yeah.
And I'm going to get there. So when you had your moment of that dip and that crash, and would you call it a crash?
Yeah, it was a crash. Did I stop believing? Maybe a little bit. I never, did I lose a bit of confidence? Yeah, a little bit, but not to the degrees of, it was more of a frustration than a disbelief.
Okay.
Yeah, I've always thought I was good enough, but I think that comes from my mum.
Yeah.
Actually. I've never not, and I still do, you know, sorry to push forward to now, but when I do shows now and there's a huge lineup with artists bigger than me, I walk into that room where everybody is and I don't feel any less than they are.
That's amazing.
Even though they are bigger artists than me.
That's brilliant. Honestly, and I'm not just saying it because, you know, people will be listening to this and listening to your words and will feel inspired. And that was one of the reasons why we connected. And it was like, hey, you've got to kind of tell your story because your story is, you know, inspiring. I'm, you know, full of admiration for you because I never got to that place. It's taken me now till I'm 50. So going on to, obviously, are we both the same age? I'm 51 now.
I'm going to be 52.
You're 52. So you're the year above me.
Yeah.
Year above me.
Yeah.
But our lives are just, well, my life's just starting and your life is restarting. It's restarting. Yeah. So I really want to talk about this feeling of, you know, we look at midlife as being a frigging crisis. And that's what I went through. And it began with Adam when my husband, he was like, oh my God, I'm turning 50. And I could see he just completely went into this lull of, and I think it was a depressive state. Yeah. And it frightened me because I suddenly thought, oh my God, I don't want to feel like that. Mm-hmm. I don't want to feel like that. How am I going to feel when I'm 50? And I had a massive awakening. Mm-hmm. That's when I created this podcast. It was, you know, and thought I need to do my coaching full time. This is my passion in life. I want to help people. I want to talk to people. I want to inspire people. I want other people to inspire, you know, a community of people, of women, I should say, because I think there is a lack of women empowerment and leadership. You said to me, your mum was that one person. You know, had you not had your mum there, you may not have felt the way you did.
Yeah, the likelihood is probably not. No. She was an incredible influence in my life. An incredible influence. And as I said, the love and the confidence and the care she gave me, I truly believe has molded me into who I am. For sure. There's no question.
So how do you cope now with mum not being
It's very hard. It's very hard. I felt when I lost her, I felt like I'd lost my rock, my security, emotionally, care, just everything. Everything. It's been really, really hard. Obviously, I have to get on with it, you know, but I don't know. It's just, I've got a very heavy heart.
Yeah.
Yeah. A really heavy heart.
But you carry her with you wherever you go.
Carry her with me all the time. All the time. And I think of her and I laugh, and there's so many things that I wish she could see now, which I'm sure she can see, but you know what I mean.
How do you get through that? How do you, like, when you wake up in the morning, because, and I hope I might touch a few sensitive points here. I just think, you know, if our mums are our biggest cheerleaders and suddenly they leave us, and you weren't in a great space as well when she passed.
No, she was my everything. So, you know, I've never met anybody in my life like I can depend on, like I could depend on my mum.
So when your career changed and it was like you had to start hustling in a different way, I mean, it wasn't a hustle for passion, it was a hustle for existing, living, surviving. Yeah. You just were surviving through life. Yeah. You met your first partner and you had a lovely, beautiful girl.
I actually met somebody before Poppy's dad, who I was with. So I came out of music and I met somebody, which was difficult. So I was with him for 5 years, I believe. So that ended. And then I met Poppy's dad. Yes.
And you were with him for how long?
On and off. 17 years.
Wow, that's a long time.
Yeah.
That's a long time to have an on and off relationship. And I'm presuming the on and off was because it wasn't a good place, a good environment.
No, it wasn't. It you know, the good thing is I've got the most amazing daughter. And everything happens for a reason.
Yeah.
I was very, very ready to have a child when we met. She was very wanted. And she is, what can I say? You know, these things happen. You know, when you're with somebody and you don't bring out the best in each other.
Yeah.
It's not the one.
No.
It's not the one.
I'm not going to go into the semantics of your relationship. I just want to understand, because there's lots of women, again, listening to this, who may be in relationships. So you've had this amazing beginning of your life. You were rocking it on stage. You know, life was brilliant. Then it started going downhill towards the end of your 20s. So we're now talking from age of 30 to 45, nearly 50.
Okay.
There became an existence.
To be honest with you, when I had Poppy, she was my purpose.
Well.
She became my full focus. I didn't really care about anything else. All I cared about was being an amazing mother. I always care about that. And I loved it. I was with my daughter 24/7. Didn't have any help. Didn't want any help. It was the most magical time. It was amazing, and it still is amazing. So that was my purpose. She was my reason. She kept me strong when things got extremely dark. When it gets to that dark place, I've had to program and condition my brain into and dig really deep coming out of it.
And you did that on your own, or did you have help around you?
Well, here's the funny thing, because everybody, you know, people would say, "Oh, you okay?" "Yeah, I'm fine. Yeah, I'm fine." I was very much a "yeah, I'm fine" person. And I was doing that for years, internalizing for years. But then it gets to the stage where I can't internalize anymore. When people ask me, "Are you fine?" Well, actually, no, I'm not. And that was the turning point for me. So before, no, I was dealing with it all on my own. And of recent times, I reached out, and it's really, really helped.
And were they friends, or did you get professional help? Both. Yeah. I think that's really important, because often we just sit there and we think, God, I don't know who to go to. And I remember being in places where I couldn't get out of bed in the morning and just think, you
can't even string a thought together. You can't string a thought together. When I've got to these points, there are two things that have saved me. Number one is my daughter. Number two is music. Music, even though it's been not great at times, it's the gift that keeps on giving. And that is the thing that brings me out of the darkness.
Amazing.
It's amazing. It's the most because it's mine.
Yeah.
It's not anybody else's. It's not a man who's done it for me.
Yeah.
I've done that.
Yeah.
And that's my thing.
Love that.
You know, I remember I was year before last, once again in a dark place, and I got a call from a producer, Guzzy Campbell. He did a B15 project, Girls, It Goes Like This, Hours.
Oh, yeah.
So he messaged me and said, right, do you want to do a tune? I was like, you know what? Yeah. And I hadn't done anything for a good 6 months. And he sent me some backing tracks. And I went up to Birmingham, I recorded the tune. And it got me out of the darkness. Music is like a love affair.
Yeah.
You know, I've fallen in love with it and out of love with it. And now I'm back in love with it again.
So tell me about your falling back in love with it again, because we talked about a good 17 years of being a mum, going through this?
Actually, it was less than that. So basically, I came out of it when I was about 27, 28. And then I had the odd gig here and there throughout the years, but then UK Garage had a renaissance. I would say in 2016, 2017. So my phone started to ring again. I was never going to go out and chase it again. I was never going to do that. It came back to me again. So things started to kick off again, I would say from 2017, 2018, and I was getting really good shows, really good work, like stuff like Radio 1. I started doing stuff with the House and Garage Orchestra. I sang at Wembley, SSE, well, it's now the SSE Arena. Robin S was headlining,
Amazing.
which was incredible, as well as smaller shows as well. But that's when it started to get going again. And then obviously we had COVID, we took a slump again. But then we've come out of COVID and yeah, you know, I've had some great things going on. You know, I've been back in the studio working on stuff. I mean, it's very, very difficult to break new music, but I always give it a go because I love that whole process. Then I got a call from Grant Nelson out the blue this time. When was it? Last year. Hey, I mean, Grant, for anybody who doesn't know who Grant Nelson is like the godfather of house.
He's amazing.
I mean, if you want to work with anybody,
yeah,
you get a call from him, you know, you kind of like, oh my God, this is amazing. So yeah, he called me, hey, Lynn, I was right, got a tune for you. You're the perfect fit. Do you want to do it? Hell yeah. Which I would never ever have thought in a million years that I'd be working with Grant Nelson.
You've now created this incredible trajectory for yourself, which is just kind of this big explosion that's happened.
Yeah, the past 6 months have just gone crazy. You know, I think it's really, I did Coco in Camden in December for the House and Garage Orchestra, which was incredible, absolutely incredible. And then, you know, things sort of like snowballed again from there, even though I'd sort of like been intermittently busy throughout. Did the Grant Nelson tune, worked with Guzzy, had some bits and pieces, which ticked over and kept my profile out there. Since December, things have snowballed. Remarkably, I worked with DJ AG Online, who's like one of the biggest kind of like online presence DJs at the moment.
Okay.
So I did the King's Cross thing with him, which was incredible. And then I got the call up to the O2.
I mean, that's just epic.
I cannot believe. I can't believe that I'm going to be singing and performing at the O2. I mean, it's a real pinch yourself moment. It's number one. It's like, I'm going to be 52 in June, and this is what I'm doing. I mean, my daughter just thinks I'm so like extra. It's
incredible. It's incredible.
Yeah,
52 years old. So just say that again because and say it because it's going to be incredible. Let's visualize it. Tell me what you're going to be doing. You're going to be.
Well, I'm singing Love Bug. But something else may be happening. Okay. Say what it was. Yeah.
Fine.
But if it does happen,
yes,
it's going to be out there.
I really think that women should listen. If you can go through and being a success, then obviously having your dark moments, getting yourself through your dark moments. And it was that pinnacle point you decided to make that change for the right reasons and found the courage to go, I just can't do this anymore and I'm going to do something else. And then this magic happens. Like, if that isn't inspirational enough for other people who are listening to this to go, I know I've got to make this one change and I've been putting it off and putting it off and putting it off. You know, it might be difficult. We're not saying it's just going to be easy. You're still, as you say, you know, surviving each day and having to pick yourself up and having to deal with the situations and onslaught of what that brings.
Yeah.
But the good stuff is happening now.
Against all odds, you know, anybody can do this. If you're in bad place or a bad situation, you know, I'm a strong believer anything is possible and you have to trust the process. I always kept the faith. You've got to dig so deep, so deep. But if I can do it, then trust me when I say this. I've been so scared. And I still get scared. I have my days of going back there scared. Like the fear is overwhelming, right? If I can do it, any woman can do it.
Yeah. This episode for me was more than inspirational, you know, and I really feel that you guys can take some magic and gold and whatever you want to call it, but take something from this episode, because we should all be listening for ourselves. What if you could have the same results as Lynsey did and make a change in your life? So if you would like to work with me, you can get in touch with me. My email address is TheRealStoriesPodcast@gmail.com. If you want to go on a journey with me, if you want to make a change, I've made changes in my life. Lynsey has made changes in her life. And as she said, if she can do it, anybody can do it. If you want to be helped through this change that you want to make, you know, you can get in touch with me either via email, TheRealStoriesPodcast@gmail.com, or there's a message button. If you go to the show within the platform you're listening to, there is a message button. Just click on there and leave me a message and I will get back to you. And it'll be great to hear from you. We can work together on your own journey, on your own aspirations, or if you don't even know if you have any aspirations, just want to make a change, you can get in touch with me and we can do some work together. It would be my absolute pleasure. That's what this community is about. This is a resource that you could be using, and you know, listen to these episodes because they're resources for you to really home in on and give you some courage and inspiration to deal with challenges in your life. So yes, you can get in touch with me at TheRealStoriesPodcast@gmail.com, or hit the message button. If you go to the show on your platform, you can message us and we will get back to you. I have enjoyed this episode, as I enjoy every single episode of Real Women's Stories, and we've got loads of them for you to listen to, and they are getting bigger and better. So I'm going to thank you for your support. I really hope you have enjoyed this episode of Real Women's Stories. And I've got a midweek episode coming up. It will be a coaching episode on one of the challenges that Lynsey has spoken about today. I'm going to be giving you some coaching, and I think it's going to be on self-belief, on having belief in ourselves, because that was the one take home that I had that really stands out for me. So if you want some coaching on believing in yourself, then tune in for my next episode of Real Women's Stories.